In this video, we will continue practicing working with angles in the coordinate plane. So we'll talk about coterminal angles and reference angles and how to do the sketches. Alright, as always, let's start off in standard position. So we will have our initial side of the angle, positive x-axis. Now let's go from there. So far that's 90 degrees. If I went this far, that would be 180 degrees. If I went this far, that would be 270 degrees. But that's too far, so let me back up. Alright, so it's going to be somewhere here in the third quadrant. First, second, third, fourth. So it's going to be somewhere here in the third quadrant, so I'll go ahead and draw it here. Okay, so this is 240 degrees. Now remember that going counterclockwise like this is the positive direction. Later on, when we have negative ones, we will go clockwise with it. Like I said, this is the third quadrant. Now, let's talk about coterminal angles. Let's get one positive and one negative coterminal angle. So let's see, positive. If I want a positive coterminal angle, I could just add 360 because, you know, if I went an additional 360 degrees from here, that's going to put me back to where I started from, thus coterminal. Alright, so I can just do 240 plus 360. Okay, so 600 will be a positive coterminal angle. Okay, I could have added any multiple of 360, so you could have any number of different correct answers. Now let's do a negative coterminal angle. Alright, I could get a negative by going clockwise from here. So going clockwise would be like subtracting 360 degrees, and I could do that however many times I want. So if I start from 240 degrees and I subtract 360, that should put me back to where I started from. Okay, so negative 120 degrees. Okay. Now let's do the reference angle. The reference angle is the angle between the terminal side and the x-axis. So I'm going to put a little theta right here. Alright, to represent this is the reference angle right there. Now, 240 degrees, that's going past 180. So it's just a matter of how far past 180 did I go. You know what I mean? 180 degrees would have been right here. If I had stopped right here, that would have been 180 degrees. So how far past it did I go? Well, to calculate that, I could just do 240 minus 180. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. So if I do the 240 minus 180, that'll tell me how far past 180 I went. Okay, I went 60 degrees past it. So that tells me that the reference angle is 60 degrees. Okay, so you can see that reference angle right here. Alright, 180 degrees plus 60, that's 240. All right, next we have negative 225 degrees. So negative means we're going to go clockwise. So again, keeping track of our quadrantal angles, if I go this far, so far that's 90 degrees. If I go this far, now I've gone 180 degrees. If I were to go to here, then I've traveled negative 270 degrees. That's too far. So I know it's going to be somewhere in this quadrant, which is the second quadrant. So it's going to be somewhere in here. Wait, I forgot to draw my initial side, which is always right there. Okay, so there's my sketch. And like I said, first, second quadrant. Now, let's talk coterminal angles. So if this is negative 225 degrees, if I want a positive coterminal angle, okay, I could just do negative 225 degrees plus 360. That's going to give me a positive coterminal angle, because that would be like starting here and adding, wait, that's the wrong direction. It'd be like starting here and going 360 degrees. That's going to put me back to where I started from. Okay, so it'll be coterminal. So just add 360 if you want a positive coterminal angle. Okay, so 135 degrees would be one example. Okay, now you could do any multiple of that. If I added 360 again, that would give me another coterminal angle. And I could do that over and over again. I could do this all day, people. But let's get a negative coterminal angle. Alright, if I want a negative coterminal angle, I can just take my already negative angle, negative 225 degrees, and subtract 360. Alright, that'll give me an even more negative coterminal angle, because subtracting 360 is just like going another 360 degrees in the negative direction, but that will put me back to where I started from. So negative 225 minus 360. Okay, negative 585. Okay, now let's talk about reference angle. Reference angle. Now the reference angle is going to be right here. The reference angle is between the terminal side and the x-axis. So, keeping in mind that yes, we are going in the negative direction, but we don't really have to worry about the sign right now. So just think about the fact that we have moved 225 degrees. All right, now moving in this direction, right here I went 180 degrees, okay, negative 180 degrees. So the question is, how far past that did I go? Now the reference angle is always going to be positive, so just ask yourself how many degrees past 180 is 225. So you don't really have to worry about the signs. You can just do 225 minus 180, and that's going to tell you how far over 180 you went. And I feel like we did this before. Okay, so that's going to be 45 degrees. Whoa, That's not a, okay. Let me slide, people. Let me slide. Okay, you don't know this, but it is 4:08 a.m. So I'm bound to make a few mistakes. Forgive me. Notice that the reference angle is always positive. You never put a negative on that thing. All right, negative 270 degrees. So the sketch, there's our initial side, negative 270 degrees. So I'm going to be moving clockwise. There's 90, 180, and negative 270 would be right there. Okay, so there's your sketch. Obviously, this is not in any quadrant, so I'll have to put not applicable. This is between the first quadrant and the second quadrant, but it's in no quadrant. Okay, maybe I'll add on here, this is a positive y-axis. Okay, anyway, how about some coterminal angles? Again, to get a positive coterminal, we can add 360. To get a negative coterminal, we will subtract 360. Okay, so we can just do, we're doing negative 270. So negative 270 plus 360, negative 270 minus 360. So that's 90 degrees. Well, okay, we didn't really need to do the calculations. That's embarrassing. So positive coterminal angle, 90 degrees. I mean, look at the picture. You can see that the positive coterminal angle would be 90 degrees. We didn't have to add 360 to see that. Okay, but negative coterminal angle, negative 270 minus 360. Okay, that's negative 630 degrees. All right, now let's talk about the reference angle. The reference angle is the angle measured against the x-axis. Now, because it's right here on the positive y-axis, it doesn't really matter whether you look over here for it or if you were to look over here, because these are the same. They are both obviously 90 degrees. So the reference angle is 90 degrees. Okay, always positive with that reference angle. Okay, how about positive 330 degrees? Here is the initial side, of course. So 330 degrees. As I travel, I've got 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, right? If I went all the way back, that would be 360, but that would be too far. So we don't want to go that far. We want to stop short. Okay, so we will have our terminal side in this quadrant. Okay, so our picture is going to look like that for 330 degrees. What quadrant is this? First, second, third, fourth quadrant. Okay, that's the fourth quadrant. Now, how about a positive coterminal angle? Well, if I want the positive, I can take my 330 degrees and add 360 to it. All right, 690 degrees. Okay, now if I want the negative coterminal, you could go 330 degrees minus 360. Okay, but obviously that's going to be negative 30 degrees. Alright, and in the same way, the reference angle is going to be pretty obvious. The reference angle is right here. Alright, it's between the terminal side and the x-axis, so this is the reference angle. But if we are looking at 330 degrees, how many more degrees would it take to make the full 360? Because that's the reference angle. It would take an extra 30 degrees to make 360. So that's how we know that the reference angle is going to be 30 degrees. Notice the reference angle is always positive. Okay, now a negative 120. Let's do the sketch. So there's our initial side. Negative 120, so we're going clockwise because we're doing negative. Alright, if I went to there, that's negative 90 so far. Alright, if I went to here, that would be negative 180. That's too far, so I need to stop short of that. So that's how I know I'm going to be somewhere in this quadrant with it. Okay, so this is my negative 120 degrees. So this is the third quadrant. Okay, because it goes 1, 2, 3. This is the third quadrant. Now let's talk coterminal. Alright, if I want a positive coterminal, I can do negative 120 plus 360. Okay, that is 240 degrees. Alright, if I want a negative coterminal angle, I could do negative 120 minus 360. Okay, that's negative 480. Alright, let's talk about that reference angle. Alright, the reference angle is going to be right here, measured from the terminal side to the x-axis. So, if as we're moving in the negative direction, we have moved negative 120 degrees. How many more degrees would it take for me to reach 180? Alright, how many degrees short am I? Because that'll be my reference angle. Alright, so to calculate that, I could just do 180 minus 120. Okay, so that is going to be 60 degrees. Alright, so if you just think about it, if this were 60 degrees, that would make sense because I've got 120 degrees going. Another 60 degrees would make the 180. Alright, but a reference angle is always positive. Alright, how about negative 315 degrees? Alright, here is the initial side, negative 315, so I'm going clockwise with it. Alright, so there's negative 90, negative 180, negative 270. Alright, obviously if I went all the way, that would be negative 360. So I don't want to go that far. So I'm going to stop short of that. So that's going to put me here in the first quadrant. Okay, so this is my negative 315 degrees. So yes, this is quadrant 1, the first quadrant. So if I want a positive coterminal angle, I could do negative 315 plus 360. Okay, it was basically 360 minus 315. Oops. Okay, that is a 45-degree angle. So you can see that 45 degrees right there. Okay, because positive coterminal means if I went in the positive direction, boom, there I go. A negative coterminal angle is going to be like continuing in the negative direction, another 360 degrees. So that would be like going negative 350 degrees and then another negative 360. Okay, so by the way, guys, you are not going to have your TI-30XS multi-view on the next test or quiz. So how would you do this on a basic four-function calc? Well, I mean, you shouldn't really need a calculator, but I need you to understand that when you're putting these together, you know you're just adding, right? It's going to be a negative number, a bigger negative number. So it's just a matter of adding the 315 and the 360. So that should be 300 and 300, that's 600. 60 and 10 is 70. So this should be negative 675. So do not get addicted to using your TI-30XS multi-view to do things like negative 315 minus 360. Okay, you have to be able to do this either in your head or using a basic four-function calculator where you can't just type it in that way. Okay, let me stop preaching. So we already did the reference angle, all right? This 45 degrees right here when we did the positive coterminal, that is the reference angle. Okay. All right, two more to go. All right, so negative 300. So let's do the sketch. Here's the initial side, negative 300, so I'm moving clockwise again. So here I go, negative 90, negative 180, negative 270. All right, again, if I went all the way back to where I started from, that would be negative 360. But that would be too far, so I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to stop short, okay, and be here. Okay, so here I am again in the first quadrant. Now, the positive coterminal angle, well, a positive coterminal angle would be like what's happening right here. That's the same thing as the reference angle, so we're sort of killing two birds with one stone. If this is negative 300, okay, how much further would I have had to go to do a full 360? All right, can you see that this is the extra 60 degrees, 360? Okay, so that's the missing angle here. So that would be a positive coterminal angle right there. If I moved in the positive direction 60 degrees, it put me at the same spot. So 60 degrees. That also happened to be the reference angle. Okay, so we got both of those done. To do a negative coterminal, I could do my negative 300 and then an additional 360 degrees, you know, in the negative direction. Alright, so this should be a bigger negative number, so it's going to be negative 300 and 300 is 600, so that's negative 660 degrees. Okay, so that's it for that one. Okay, last one. 900 degrees. Alright, finally one that's bigger than 360. These are fun to do. Okay, so here is my initial side as always. it's positive, so I'm moving in the counterclockwise direction. Okay, this is bigger than 360. Okay, so let's start by getting all the rotations, full rotations out of the way. So if I went all the way around once, okay, so far that's 360 degrees. Okay, so I've done 360 so far. Alright, if I go all the way around again, okay, that's another 360. Okay, what's that? Well, 360 plus 360 is 720. Okay, so now I've gone around twice, so that's 720. Okay, so if I go another 360, then I've gone too far, so I don't need to do that again. So far I've gone 720 degrees because I've gone around twice, and I'm still back to where I started from. So now let's go from there. So far I've got 720 degrees happening. So if I go another quadrant, okay, so that's plus 90 degrees. Okay, so that gives me 810. Okay, so now I've got 810 so far. Alright, I'm getting closer, closer to this 900. Now, what if I go another quadrant to here? Okay, so that's another 90. So if I have 810, whoa. Okay, plus another 90. Well, guess what? That's exactly 900 degrees. So there it is. Okay, so this is a picture of 900 degrees, positive 900 degrees. And again, I'm not in any quadrant, so there is no quadrant. I am on the negative x-axis. Alright, I'm not in a quadrant. Okay, what else we need? So, if I want a positive coterminal angle, alright, it would be silly to go 900 plus 360. I'm already way bigger than 360. Why not just look at the picture and see what's happening? Alright, let's use our common sense. Okay, a positive coterminal angle would be 180 degrees. Boom. If I just went from the initial to the terminal just one time, that's 180 degrees. Okay, so this one, it will help us to use our common sense. How about a negative coterminal angle? Same thing. Common sense. So first of all, understand that I can't just simply go 900 minus 360 because that's not going to give me a negative number at all. That would give me another positive coterminal angle. I could keep subtracting 360 over and over again until I get a negative number. But we will feel more clever if we just use our common sense. If we just look at the negative direction from the initial to the terminal side, that's a negative 180 degrees. Okay, so that's the best way to go. Okay, now as far as reference angles, there's no way for me to draw it in because there is no gap between the terminal side and the x-axis. The terminal side is on the x-axis. So because there is no difference between them, then of course that means that the reference angle is 0 degrees. So it's a special case. Okay, so that is it for this video, people. I hope it has been helpful to you, and I will see you on the next video.